Hey everybody. Hello, 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 hello. Hello. I'm Sandy Rakowitz and welcome to this live love stream in connecting with the divine, with connecting with someone who's passed over. So hopefully there'll be, I know a bunch of people have said that they wanted to come in, and I'm sporting my wreath of flowers picked from just outside where I live. We've got these beautiful status, the things that you get in flower arrangements. Well, they grow naturally wild out here, and these lantanas and lavender and Russian sage and all sorts of beautiful flowers. So here's what happened. It's been such an interesting week, and somebody that I know passed away suddenly this week, just a few days ago, with a brain aneurysm. And I don't know all of the details. And thanks, Penny. And but what happened is I found out early in the morning, and someone emailed me who was a mutual person, and thank you, appreciate that. And so as I was processing that, it was very shocking, very, very super sudden. I had just talked with her on the 27th, so 5 days ago, something like that, 6 days before. And it's just so interesting how things happen. You never know. You don't ever know what's going to happen. And so as I was processing this very sudden departure from her physical body back into spirit, I started writing. That's one of the ways that I process. And I started writing her a letter. So it's one way for you to connect with someone that you love, whether they're in their body or not, and with your own personal intentions. And one of my underlying intentions is always about finding the truth, the threads of connection that are loving contact, whatever that means at that point in time. And so I started just kind of responding to things that we had talked about that I knew that were going on for her. And really what happened is my connection with her just literally popped open, and I started seeing her and hearing her. So I've had that happen with my own animals, and with people who have been close friends or family. But this was a little bit different. Or when somebody calls me and sets up an appointment to have a conversation with somebody who's passed over. I'm not like the Long Island psychic who walks around saying, she says that Teresa, she's such a riot, that woman. She walks around saying, she's hearing people, loved ones around everybody. I don't walk around like that. That's not my style. I wouldn't like that. That would be way too much for me. But, everybody has their own way of connecting, and everybody's capable. Everybody's capable of having these places of contact with people that they know and love, whether they're in their body or not, and as well as with animals. And for me, that's how that all started, is through the animals. And so, and this woman and I had a connection with animals also. So, it was surprising, not surprising that happened, but it was surprising and quite profound. And so as the day went on, I think that was just yesterday. It's like time has changed, because in that connection, there is no time. And that's been influencing me as I think it was just yesterday morning, and that I found out. And so let me kind of gather myself back in, because there's these big explosions of energy. Actually, there's a lot of excitement. So as the day went on yesterday, it became apparent that, hang on one second, I just want to turn that on. There we go. So it just became very apparent that the topic for my live stream today, which I didn't know prior to this, the topic for my live stream today that I've been doing weekly for, I don't know, almost 2 months now, on Fridays at noon Pacific, here on my Facebook page, or if you're watching on YouTube. And like, I often don't know the topic until that night before, or that morning, or sometimes right when I'm talking. I'm using this as a place to just let that connection with the divine come through, and what is it that's needed, not only for me, but my community, and often the life at large, what's needed. And so I'm just listening and willing. And so it became apparent yesterday that this was not only the topic, but as soon as I said that, I could feel this person like just come in and like, yeah, let's share. And I've got to say that her, I can feel her personality, how I've known her. I'm sorry if you see my eyes flicking. I'm on a group text with my friends from high school, and there's like scads of texts coming in right now. So I apologize. If I turn those off, then I can't do this live. So that's just the nature of doing things live. Things happen. So, her personality was not like be out in the forefront of, like, in group settings with people that she didn't know, like that sort of thing. But she had such a good heart, still does, but in her physical person, and such a beautiful connection with animals and people, and kind of the larger sense of what is and how things could be. And she loved connecting into the Akashic realms, and got so much out of doing that. And we were also talking about her plans, like coming up, and how she was really taking care of things so that she could fully retire. This and irony of ironies, and that she wasn't sure what was next. So irony of ironies, right? Consciously, I didn't pick this up, that she was about to pass over, as my horse says, drop her physical wrapper. And also we were talking about how she brought this up, how all beings, all sentient beings have consciousness, and how moving that was for her to be kind of opening into that more and more, saying like, the bird probably has consciousness, and this being has consciousness, and not just me, not just my dogs, not just the dogs or the animals that she has worked with. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful opening. And I was talking with somebody yesterday afternoon in a session for me, and so I was talking about some things where I felt held back, and I heard Amanda chime in about reflecting on that for herself, and how her perspective now is, and what she said. And I think this is so useful for all of us, because it's just important. It's like having the perspective from someone on the other side is amazing. It's an amazing blessing to have that available. And so she was saying, I hope I can remember all this, because it's kind of flitting in and out a little bit. I'm a little bit nervous doing this in public right now, I gotta say. So let me just ground for a minute. And so the other thing that's happening on these live streams, it's like I am going farther. Each time I'm a little bit farther out on another edge than where I had been before. Okay, I've done that one last week. Okay, now it's like stretching for the next bit. So having this in the moment connection with somebody, not in a session, but just kind of a free contact connection, for lack of a better way to say it, with people. I see there's some people on here that I don't know. Even those people I do know, it's a big deal. Anyway, so people who know me know that I do this sort of thing. But anyway, traipsing into new territory, wearing a feather, not feathers. It feels like there's feathers in here, but energetically there are, but flowers and so forth. Anyway, okay. Part of that's all my nervousness, all that little chatter. So, but also all true. And so what she was saying about lag time is that when you hold yourselves back, that it creates, and she showed me this energetic thing. She showed me like this swirl of energetic, like going backwards and holding something else in front of you, so that you're not just you moving forward. And she was showing me some of her realizations about herself from when she was in the physical realm, that she's seeing way more clearly right now, and seeing these perspectives and saying the same thing for me. And so immediately she was just like, it was like this back and forth of not really teacher, but like but sort of like teacher back and forth, like she would say something and I would see it and I was like, oh, right. And all these other connections of things that I knew would literally come together, and she'd see that happening in the moment, because her perception is like not even 100%, but 1,000% open now. And was like, oh, wow. And then she'd say something about, oh, I see how that was the case for me and what I was doing. And then talking about how important, in a sense, that was for her to be able to walk through that and understand that and some of the components of it, and how in her passing, it's like, and since in that short time, since on a physical plane, short time, how all of those things that she's been working on just like opened, shed. It's not even shedding, because it's not, shedding is from the physical realm. It literally just opened. I don't have some words for some of these things. And one of the first things that she showed me yesterday morning that I wanted to share, and that she's kind of prompting me to share, that's so important, is yes, it was sudden from the physical plane, but as soon as she had, like she's saying, passed over, like since then and immediately after, the light that she showed me was so beyond anything we see in the physical realm. It's sort of like the metaphor, it's not really a metaphor, but it would be akin to like when you look into the sun and the light, and you see streams of light that are so bright that you can't even really see it. It's like she's saying it's like magnified like that. But it's not just seeing it. She's saying it's the feeling, the experience of it, and the extraordinary freedom. She's like, it's way better than anything she said she ever could have imagined. Like way different. And so whatever physical pain there was in that passage, it's like it's not even a thing. And all the animals, especially that I've talked with about their passage, because people almost always have questions about, their feeling like, were they suffering? What was that experience like? And everybody who I've spoken with, animals and people, about that passage, they do not dwell on the physical at all. They're like, yeah, they just want to show the experience from the spiritual. And so I've learned so much about death and dying and what's beyond, first from the animals, because that was the safest place for me to have that connection with someone who's passed over. And I'd had a lot of deaths by the time I was a teenager in my family, a lot of deaths. And close family members, and it was very confusing, and it was very deeply distressing, and distressing doesn't even, it was horrible, and parts of me shut down, and in subsequent deaths and losses growing up, there were more and more parts that were held back. What an interesting thing. I was talking about that yesterday. So it's just all of, this is how connections come together, right? When you're in that process of contacting someone, in that connection with someone, it helps things to move through you so that it's not coagulated in the same ways that when you've held yourself back, or when it's been too painful to be able to be with it in that time, right? And I've had over 20 animals that I have had living with me that have passed over. Just as an adult, I didn't have animals in my house growing up. And surprisingly enough, even though I communicate with animals and do energy work and healing with people and animals now, so all of that, there's so many different threads of how you get to where you are now, how I've gotten to where I am. Those are certainly those experiences, and not having understood them and feeling so deeply bereft, and once I was an adult, feeling like the tears would never stop. And I know that that's a common thing for people, and feeling so shut down and not able to open up into the present moment very fully, and sometimes not being able to open up to another animal and or another person, or your work, or your passion, because all of this is held and constricted, and the fear of experiencing those feelings keeps us away some more, right? We hold ourselves back. And so yesterday when Amanda was talking, and she was showing about this lag time and the holding back, she was really showing how it's like you create energy in front of you that you hold back. You hold yourself back from bringing yourself forward and opening into. And even knowing that, you can't force yourself to do anything, to face things or to go things. You make decisions, and then you can, have some compassion and assistance, and letting that move through you. And let me see what else she wants to say. And if people have personal experiences that they'd like to share in the comments, this is where I'd love to have direct interactivity with people speaking. But or if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'm just getting a lot of energy and excitement, not so much words at the moment. And it's not just all me. So different ways, of being able to have that contact and connection. There's so many different ways, and a couple of simple, but not always simple, things that you can do. Simple in the sense that, they're easily accessible, not so simple because it involves connecting into your own emotions and thoughts about your connection with a person or an animal, and so that can feel challenging for sure. But one of the things that I like to do, that I did with Amanda yesterday, is I just started to write her a letter. I was writing, journaling, and then I was like, oh, this is a letter to Amanda. So I just said, dear Amanda, and I started having a conversation with her on paper, and I would say things, and I would hear and feel responses and I was just like, oh, this is her. Oh, cool. Okay, great. And it helped me shift right away through the shock, and move things through my system very differently. Hi, Hope. Yes, I know, she's a dear friend. I can feel her genuine being, sorry, I can feel the sadness. Let me see what this says. It's a dear friend of mine. I can feel her genuine being present, tears for how relieved I am for her and for how much she means to me. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Tears flow, that's right, and they help those emotions move. And as somebody said to me decades ago, Eva, your eyes are the windows to your soul, and they need frequent washing. And I just love that so much. And it's true. It's really true, right? They help that connection and the clearing, both, and they help us tap into that love that we have with someone. And there's also for people, I know that I've had this, the missing of what could have been, right? The missing of what hadn't happened, or of the promise of what could have been in interactions and connections, right? And I've thought that a number of times, and as soon as I think that, I can feel her sort of like energy is just like, but here we are right now, which, right, that's part of the healing. That's part of like, oh, this connection is still here. And so, and I've said similar things to people that have come through with animals and other people, like, when we focus on what was or what could have been, we're not really in the actual connection in the moment. And so it's a way for us as humans to creatively try to grasp and cope with things that touch into such profoundly deep places that aren't always easy to stay connected into. I hope that makes sense. If not, you can put something in the chat. But yeah, so important. So writing a letter to someone is really important. I know that one of the first times that I did that was to one of my animals. And it was hard to do. It was really challenging to do. I think the real first letter that I wrote was to Sonny, my horse, who lived until he was 37. I had had him about 15 or 16 years. And he was at home when he passed, and wasn't euthanized, but it was a big, long, really big, long night. And I wrote for pages and pages. I think it's something like 20 pages long. Like, I'd write for a while, and it would sort of be like emptying things out. I would talk about experiences that we had and remembering things, even though I had said those things out loud. Something in me wanted to write them down on paper, and they were just things were just pouring out of me. And the more that I wrote, I'd have other memories that I hadn't remembered before. One thing connected to another, and then I'd be wiped out because I was exhausted. And from the whole process of a year and a half of care, and the ups and downs, the roller coaster, and then that last 12 hours, and then burying him and all that process, and there were a lot of other things going on that week also that were really, really hard. So I wrote this, and then I'd rest. And then another wave would come through me, and I'd write some more. With another animal, like with Liza, when Liza passed, one of my dogs, I couldn't start writing for months. It took me months to be able to write about her letter. And then it was in little short snippets, because it was really hard. It was just hard to go back to that connection. And it's through that death that actually helped open things up for me to use creativity as a way to connect with someone who's passed over. And so another tip, another idea for people is something that I love doing, that I started doing after my cat Scarlet died, who was around 18. I'd only had her for about 8 or 9 of those years. And then Liza died like 9 days later. It was not good. It was not fun times. And they used to, not Scarlet, but Liza and Haley used to escort people from their cars when I had my office at my house in Virginia. It's such a beautiful farm. You drive down this beautiful driveway with all these trees and the pond and every, you know, in the warm weather, there's green, lush grass everywhere and flowers and everything. And Liza and Haley would go up and greet everybody when they got out of the car. And then they'd walk the person up to the front, up to the door, the office door, downstairs along this beautiful flower garden that I had on both sides that I loved tending to. And then Haley would come in, and Liza was like, I don't need to go in with you. You're fine. You're escorted. All is safe and well now. I'm going to keep overseeing everything outside while you're inside doing your thing. And so I needed something for that, you know, passage. So I went around the land and I picked up rocks from the land. And in Virginia, a lot of the rocks are very craggy, at least where I lived. And I got a magic marker, you know, one of those, what are they called? Sharpies. And I just wrote not their names, but like words that reminded me of them. You know, like the rock that I brought with me here of Liza's is Spunky. She was a super spunky, cute little chow border collie mix. And she was many things, and Spunky was one of them. And I was just looking at that in the last couple of days, actually, interestingly enough. So anyway, so it's a really beautiful thing that you can do, just create some type of a remembrance rock. And things that engage you, right? Like, it's helpful and it can be nice to send flowers and plant a tree. And those are beautiful things, beautiful expressions, which I'm sure the family and you all would enjoy. But what I'm talking about is engaging at another level, right? So like I've done for my horse who passed away a little over a year and a half ago, I've done many things and I keep doing things. I keep adding to those things, right? I planted a tree that somebody gave me, you know, that's at the barn. So when you drive in the driveway, you get to, I notice it, you know, it's this tree that's growing and it's like grown a foot this spring. It's really taking root. And I put little, you know, rocks. I love to paint rocks around, and you know, he was really good buddies with my pony Zoe, so I put Zoe and Ibis, love, and whales, and all sorts of things all around that tree that stand there now, and I just love it. It means something so beautiful to me. It's so touching to me. Planted a flower garden for him outside. I've spread his ashes in different places. So, you know, it's really important to create meaning. Hey, Beth. It's so important to create meaning for whatever the passage has been for you, right? And if it's important for you to do that with community. And I wanted to read something that somebody else said that I don't know, but Peg, I want Amanda to know that I am grateful for our relationship and her calmness. It's so sweet. And so things like that, you kind of might feel like you need me to help you do that, but she knows that. So I would recommend, what I recommend for people, whether it's with people who've passed or animals, just like talk out loud to them as if they were still there, right? Also, not always an easy thing to do sometimes, right? But so important because it helps your own internal valves open up, but it also, and in that, it helps you in your direct connection. Even if you're filled with doubt, even if you're filled with uncertainty, I'm here to tell you that it happens, that connection happens, and everybody is capable of doing that. And it's much more empowering for you to do that for yourself. And if you want to set up a session, we can do that, absolutely. And I do that with people and facilitate those connections all the time. And in those sessions, what happens so much is that I help you, and the animal or the person also, and your guides help you in that more direct connection, and what that might mean for you and where you are in your stage of development and connection, awareness, whatever, right? Because everything that I do is all about finding that empowerment for yourself and that connection through your own heart with the divine, and whatever that means for you with these, the thing, through time we've been, culturally, like, we're not supposed to do what I'm talking about, crazy, die, hung, all the stuff, right? And so in this lifetime, we are in an unprecedented time, right? There's tons of weird and terrible things that are happening, but it's also an unprecedentedly wonderful time, because I can be here on Facebook Live technologically with you, which from where all of you are around the United States, and perhaps people are also tuning in from other places in the world. And that in of itself is like miraculous, right? It's a miraculous experience of being able to connect no matter where you are, which is really what we have the capacity to do with our animals and nature, and with beings who have passed through their physical body and back to their more original source form, not more original, to their original soul source connection form, without having this physical beautiful wrapper that we have that contains us in certain ways, so that we can slow our experiences down from spirit form, so that we can really focus and learn certain things. And I know all of these things that I'm talking about are things that I've been learning throughout this lifetime. Yeah, I know that I've done various and sundry of these things in other lifetimes, but I didn't come into this lifetime with that awakened in me, in the forefront, right? And so it's waking these things back up, and like part of my passage through this lifetime is getting over holding back, getting over the fear and the terrors, going through them, so that there's this anchoring. And I know that that's true for all of us in our own ways, in whatever ways that's true for each person. So I think that's kind of it for today, for now. So there's so many ways you can contact me. Certainly, if you're watching this on Facebook, love your comments. Comments are always helpful. It's always helpful for other people to see comments, and if this resonates with you, and likes and loves and shares and so forth. And you can private message me through Facebook. You can also go to my website, onehearthealingcenter.com, and will you have more conversations now with Amanda? I suspect she's here, and that's available. So it's absolutely within the realm of possibility. I'm not feeling anything pressing through me coming through at the moment. So if somebody has questions, I'm more than happy to see what happens. You never know. And if you want to do that directly, you can contact me, and we can do that for sure. And ways to contact me through my website. And you can email me, sandy@onehearthealingcenter.com. And you can find this on YouTube once I get it uploaded. Occasionally there's a thing that happens with downloading it from Facebook, and one or two haven't made it onto YouTube because of that. But generally speaking, it does work. So I'm just going to keep holding that intention that this next one will work also. So thank you so much for joining in. And if anybody has anything else last they want to share before we bring it to a close for today. And Donna, love you too, sweetheart. Oh my God. I love people that I've known from different times. Thank you, my Virginia connection. just got this flood of hearing you and your girl sing. Beautiful, beautiful voices. Oh my God, beautiful heart. So, yeah, all right. So we'll close things for today. Love you. Thank you for joining. Thank you for connecting. Thank you for being in your hearts and loving in all the ways that you do. And hey, Marnie. So sweet. And we'll see you next time. I'm here Fridays on Facebook at noon. I never know who or what's going to show up next. I'm going to join in the adventure. Bye for now.